In 1993, a very old reel of silent film was deposited with Ngā Taonga Sound and Vision. It showed a woman giving a speech in front of a theatre backdrop. Who was she? No one was sure, but archivists at the time believed that the film was shot in France around 1910. It was catalogued and stored away until 2016. That's when Ngā Taonga film conservator Dr. Leslie Lewis retrieved the film from the vault and saw it for the first time.
So, when I first pulled the film out, I could tell it was older than what had originally been thought. There are some physical characteristics to the film that make it different from film even 2 to 3 years later.
Leslie began to explore other possibilities, starting with France. The film does look like an early French film, typically static and filmed in front of a studio backdrop. But French archives knew nothing about it.
So I was looking at it and I thought, well, maybe it is a local film, filmed in New Zealand. I hit all the big names it could have been, and it wasn't any of those, so I decided to access the collective knowledge of my colleagues here at Ngā Taonga. I sent around some photos that I had taken over a lightbox and asked, does anyone know this woman? And one of our documentation archivists came back and said that she thought it might be Elizabeth Yates.
So who was Elizabeth Yates? In 1893, just a few weeks after New Zealand women became the first in the world to vote in a general election, Elizabeth Yates was elected Mayor of Onehunga. A woman of remarkable tenacity, Yates was the first woman in the British Empire to hold the office of Mayor. Her election gained attention across the British Empire. Queen Victoria and Premier Richard Seddon congratulated her. But 4 councillors and the town clerk resigned in protest. With intense media and public attention, council meetings took on a circus atmosphere. Debates were sensationally reported in papers right across the country. Yates's forthright manner and disregard for rules added to the spectacle. After one difficult year in office, Yates was soundly defeated at the polls. In that time, she rid the borough of debt, upgraded the roads and sanitation, and reorganised the fire brigade. Even her opponents agreed that she was a formidable administrator. But how could we be sure that it was Yates on the film? Leslie began to search for evidence in old records and newspapers.
Searching through the newspapers finally led me to an advertisement for the Zealandia Living Picture Company, run by a man named Enos Pegler. That advertisement listed a film called The World's First Lady Mayor.
Restoring and preserving the film took weeks of painstaking work by conservators at Ngā Taonga Sound and Vision.
There were 116 years of broken sprockets, scratches, and dirt. All of that had to be fixed, repaired, and cleaned before we could do anything to it. After all of that was done, we scanned it. That's a process where we take a super high-resolution photo of every single frame. In a 60-second film like this, there were about 800 individual pictures.
So how would Pegler, the filmmaker, have met Yates, the First Lady Mayor? Well, Pegler was from the same area, and it was a small community by today's standards. He was also interested in local issues. We know he wrote letters to the editor and spoke before the council on several occasions.
This film was shown in Pegler's traveling film show. He toured only for a few months, and I have no evidence that the film was ever publicly screened again. So now that we've preserved it and people can watch it, it's probably one of the first times it's been seen in 116 years.
Elizabeth Yates was so far ahead of her time. It was 63 years before New Zealand got its second woman mayor. For us today, the ability to see exactly what people saw more than a century ago, this trailblazing woman moving and speaking as if she were right here now, that's what makes this film so exciting and so important. It gives us an immediate connection, transcending time and culture and distance, with the people, stories and events that make us who we are today. And that's the incredible power and value of all of the audiovisual taonga that we care for here at Ngā Taonga Sound and Vision.